This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, now we bring you a discussion on digital interception and overall analysis. The participants are Avinash Mohnani, Security Analyst, and Sudhir Ranjan Sen, Journalist.
Day before yesterday, the Union Home Ministry issued a notification authorizing a couple of enforcement agencies, including that of the Intelligence Bureau, the Narcotics Control Bureau, the Enforcement Directorate, the Central Board of Taxes, so on and so forth, to first intercept and then decrypt the information that is flowing through the internet, as a result of which all net traffic, so to say, will now, in a way, be monitored by enforcement agencies, intelligence agencies, and this, rightly or wrongly, in a way kicked off a political storm yesterday with the opposition kind of accusing the government of turning it into a surveillance state. But what actually is the truth, Mr. Avinash Mohnani? What does this order mean, and how much do you think is this entire fear that was created is correct or incorrect?
There are no clear answers for putting it in correct or incorrect sense, but what one can say for sure is that, look, with time, leave aside the terrorists, the people who are involved in the petty crime also, they have shifted from normal telephonic conversations. Because normal telephonic conversation, now everybody believes, can be tapped and monitored under Indian Telegraph Act. So the shifting is more towards the digital world when the data is so cheaply available and your mobile handset is performing tasks which even 20 years back even the computers were not able to perform. So you carry a small computer in your hand all the time, 24 hours a day, with connectivity to the world. So why would you use the open channels for communication? So the communication has now shifted to the internet world. So the need obviously is from the local police, as you see, order also specifies the Commissioner of Police Delhi. So it is from local police to the Indian agencies, security agencies who are dealing with the terrorism and other serious issues. All will be requiring, apart from the normal telephonic conversation, the internet data that is flowing. But that provision under which the order has been issued, 69 of the IT Act and under read with Rule 4 of the IT rules, and the interception is to be clearly reduced in writing that what is the purpose of interception. And the controller who authorizes such interception, he has also to record it in writing that he is satisfied with the demand of the security agency, whichever the security agencies have been specified in the latest Gazette notification. So all these agencies will have to justify why they are covering. It's not a blanket kind of a coverage. It's a basically coverage meant very specifically. If you see what is happening at the international level, we all know the case of Snowden. Snowden, a contractor associated with the National Security Agency of the US, he had told that the kind of interception that they were doing, that was objectionable because that was a blanket coverage, the data being tapped from the source in bulk. Then use of keywords to find out that who is associated with whom. But here the process is not that blanket. It is specific to A person, B person, C person or D person. And you have to justify it in writing. And the controller has to, under the law. So a competent authority is issuing orders for the interception and simultaneously it is under the Act. So the notification is neither a creation of a new Act or nor change the designation of the competent authority. Act has been passed in
2009. So basically, for the benefit of viewers, this act has been passed in 2009. And what this notification, so to say, is designates these authorities. And from what I could understand by speaking to my friends and senior officials is that it has limited the number of agencies to 10 because otherwise there were others who were also asking for it. And it is a two-step mechanism of supervision. One, the Home Secretary looks in, issues the orders, allows the interception. And there is a committee under the Cabinet Secretariat who will then see whether it is justified and whether that review powers. From the side of, say, law enforcement, what is the kind of problems that you would have often faced? Because we understand that very many times law enforcement agencies would go to the service providers and would not get help. With this thing now it is clarified that you have to help. Is that the situation?
As you rightly said, Sudhi, that it clarifies number of agencies involved. So there is no other who can seek for the interception. One thing is certain. Second is that competent authority remains same and there is a review mechanism also. Now, when you go charge under the law, because any interception today, electronic interception has to be under the law only. Because what happens is that when you configure, suppose I am configuring a certain keywords or certain email or certain kind of thing that I want interception about. So if I specify that has to be configured in the switch or that has to be configured in the setup. So there is an electronic footprint left by the person who is configuring it. So it is subject in future also to judicial review. So somebody if goes to the court and court orders check why it was intercepted, the service provider can clearly tell that on which date, which time exactly this configuration came and when the order was received and what kind of order was received. So it's not a kind of a blanket kind of a coverage. It obviously helps the security agencies as also the service provider, which would require a legal authentication, and security agencies also don't mind providing that legal cover to whatever they are doing.
Isn't it a fact, and as you were briefly saying earlier, that much of the communication, say, of people who want to, say, attack the interests of India have shifted from normal telephony and therefore gone into this? Then as an agency, as a law enforcer, how and where were you standing?
Yeah, it becomes very difficult for us because telephone communication was much easier to intercept and to log. But this throws lots and lots of challenges to us. And people keep shifting their email IDs and those things. So interception these days is not that easy. And at this stage, if we keep going on a particular site of or the particular email of the suspect, then it becomes difficult. So we have to also evolve very fast. The interception has to come to us. We have to process that interception and then accordingly modify our search and take the necessary orders for the service provider. So it poses a lot of challenge to us in the field because the technology has changed so much of movement and communication between the two people that it becomes sometimes very difficult. The issue of encryption and decryption is there. The issue of sometimes you don't receive the interception that you wanted to. There are so many things that happen and that makes our task very difficult, particularly in situations like J&K, in situations where you have terrorists connected with the transnational crime rackets and terrorists also. Like if somebody is connected to ISIS, then it becomes difficult to track that communication. So for us, there is little option but to go for the electronic surveillance. So electronic surveillance is part of the normal security agency activity.
You know, going a little back to the entire political controversy happened, the finance minister put out a blog yesterday talking about how it was there in 2009 and what then the Home Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, had said that these are required, and yet you have this entire controversy being created. You've been through the system. How difficult or how easy, say, when you go up to a Home Secretary or go up to, the authority in the Home Ministry, asking them, well, this is a suspect, this is a terror suspect, and we need to, listen into the logs, we need to listen into ABCD. How difficult or how easy is it? And I'm asking you this question just so that our listeners get a sense of how it is done.
Look, it has lot of checks and balances because any interception, when we ask for whether it is electronic or whether it's a verbal communication intercept, any interception that we ask for, it goes through several layers in the security agency itself. Only once they are satisfied, and the satisfaction has to be at the highest level. If local police is doing, the local police has to apply to the Home Secretary. And if the union agencies are doing as specified in the order that was issued recently, then the Union Home Secretary or the competent authority, whichever is designated competent authority for that organization, that has to satisfy. And it's not that very easy process. It goes through rigorous scrutiny. And once that rigorous scrutiny is over, then obviously realizing the threat to the national security, realizing the law and order situation that it may create, realizing the threat to the unity and integrity of India. So these are various factors which Home Secretary considers before finally passing the sanction order.
And sir, I believe there are a couple of conditions that are said that only under these conditions. One is, of course, threat to the sovereignty of the country. What are broadly the other conditions that are there, sir?
One is the unity and integrity of India, sovereignty of India, friendly relations with other countries. That is there. Then a possibility of commission of any cognizable offense. If that is there, because we have seen that if we open this communication without interception, we have seen that how the social media or how the communication, fake communication, can create mayhem in the country. So it is all those conditions which we have to keep in mind. Basically, what we are trying to do is, government is trying to do is to keep pace with the changing technology on the ground. You can't remain mired in the old kind of a setup or old mindset. You have to move away from that old mindset, get into the new technologies and know how to deal with the new technology.
And also, sir, I believe the agencies that have been notified by this government order day before yesterday, they also figure in the Telecom Act. They are the same agencies that are looking into.
True, there is no change in it. There is no change in it. The same agencies have been doing under the IT Act or the Indian Telegraph Act, which was passed during the Britishers' time, and this act also, Information Technology Act. The agencies are same, the same agencies have been notified.
And agencies same, the conditions therefore also remain the same as you were explaining what the conditions are.
Yes, very rigorous conditions.
Is there anything that the government, since, now you were behind the doors, you were, working, going after terrorists in what point of time, now that you have come to the other side, is there any other way you think that the government could have handled it, in the sense, should have tried to reassure the people, or this political controversy, could they have handled it better?
Look, it's very difficult to say when we really don't know why suddenly this order had come out. But I can only say this much, that the order would help security agencies and service provider both. They know exactly what is to be done under the law. And this order is purely legal order under the Act and with proper rules.
And the other thing, this order also makes very specific things. It says when it is allowing the signals intelligence of the Indian Army to intercept, it is very clearly demarcated the areas.
Yeah, true. In Jammu and Kashmir and I think some other areas. Yes, Jammu and Kashmir, the army is also doing, because army is at the forefront of counter-militancy, counter-terrorism operations in J&K. So they also do require. I agree with that point.
Jammu and Kashmir, Northeast, and because Northeast, I believe, is full of insurgency and gun running that happens once in a while. On the whole, sir, would you say this is an unnecessary controversy that was created?
As of now, yes, I would say, but I agree on that point that it should have been handled in much more matured way.
From both sides? From both sides.
And kept the issues of certain national security, counter-terrorism, etc. away from this controversial.
In the sense that when it is being done for keeping in mind counter-terrorism, national security, perhaps a little bit of politics, people who are indulging it may not have.
Yeah, I think maturity is required in commenting on these issues and dealing with these issues. And it can't be dealt with the way it's being said and it's being discussed.
In sum, what we can say is that this order only names out the agencies, restricts the number of agencies who can have access and cannot have access. This has been there, and this act has been passed in 2009. It has been there, but only the agencies had not been notified. And although we have, there has been a political controversy created around it, as Mr. Monani was saying, there's nothing new, so to say, in it. It is just an order reiterating what is there in the law that was passed earlier. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
You were listening to a discussion on digital interception and overall analysis. The participants were Avinash Mohanani, Security Analyst, and Sudhir Ranjan Sen, Journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.